A Baltimore mother who lost her son says young people aren't being held accountable.
Why would we tell children that they're, commit these crimes and you'll be fine? There is no charges. There are no charges.
Her emotional pleas for help in a Fox 45 News interview. Baltimore's police union hopes a new year brings a new outlook.
That's the biggest challenge the new commissioner is going to be facing, in my opinion, is how to bounce back.
Their praise for changes made in 2023 and where they feel the department is falling short. Crime caught on surveillance video doesn't always lead to an arrest. We have updates on some open cases in 2023. And from test scores to attendance, Project Baltimore exposed some of the biggest issues facing city schools last year. A look back at their investigations.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
A homicide investigation is underway in Baltimore County after a man's body is discovered on Bel Air Road in Perry Hall. Police found the body around 8:30 this morning near Gunpowder Falls State Park.
Officers say the body showed obvious signs of trauma, and homicide detectives were called to the scene. This is a developing story. Stay with Fox 45 News on air and online for the very latest. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. As Baltimore turns the page to 2024, one local group is making sure to pay tribute to those we lost last year. Fewer than 300 people were killed for the first time in 9 years in Baltimore, but the group Mothers of Murdered Sons and Daughters is ensuring the city's 262 homicide victims aren't forgotten.
With that pain, we have to become diligent and fight. We can't be quiet. We can't go into our small corners of our homes and suffer quietly. That pain is there for a reason. It is to make us angry.
This is not acceptable, and we no longer are going to put up with that. Our slogan is one homicide this year is too many.
Well, the organization read the names of each homicide victim killed in 2023. Leaders say city and state officials need to take stronger action to hold criminals accountable.
Well, there were two early morning shootings in Baltimore. Police say a 44-year-old man was hospitalized after a shooting along Druid Park Lake Drive just before 1:15. Less than 10 minutes later, police say a 30-year-old man shot a 22-year-old woman inside a parking garage on Guilford Avenue downtown. The man was arrested. Police say they found a gun in his pocket.
Tonight, we have team coverage of Baltimore's crime response, from shootings to robberies to carjackings.
We begin with Fox 45's Shannon Lilly and one Baltimore mother who tells Fox 45 News something needs to change after her 16-year-old son was killed by another teen.
Yeah, Michelle Hines still feels the deep pain of the loss of her son, but now she fears for her two other children. Living in a city she says just isn't safe, and this year, she wants action.
So his friends actually took a picture of him in class just to prove, like, hey, you really need your haircut. So when they got him on this picture, he was looking up, grunting like, okay, I get it.
It's a happy moment frozen in time. Isaiah Carter, still a kid with his whole life in front of him.
He was just a normal 16-year-old.
But on March 6, 2023, one phone call would forever change this mom's life.
The principal of the school gave me a call, and she's like, I'm so sorry, Michelle, did you hear about what happened?
Isaiah's life stolen after he was gunned down just steps from his high school during school hours.
Honestly, I wake up sometimes and I'm like, I really cannot believe that this happened. There are times when even my coping strategies don't work because it's like, my child was taken from me.
But the pain of 2023,
this year has been ugly.
Hines hopes to turn into action in 2024.
When we last spoke, you said justice wouldn't come until there is change. Has that happened yet?
I don't think that there's been enough change.
Hines acknowledges the drop in homicides the city saw in 2023, ending the year with 262 killings, down from 330 in 2022, according to BPD data. But she's taking issue with some of the laws still in place, including those that keep young people from being held accountable.
Why would we tell children that they're, commit these crimes and you'll be fine? There is no charges. There are no charges.
Beyond accountability, Hines wants rehabilitation for Baltimore's youth, with more mental health services to keep them out of a life of crime. And then there's the issue of policing.
When there's a crime that happens at Fells Point, We see the police officers on every single corner all summer.
She wants that same response in her neighborhood and beyond.
Why can't we put that attention into our youth? Why can't we open up more rec centers for our youth?
And with her 2 remaining children about to re-enter Baltimore City schools after going virtual following Isaiah's death,
it is terrifying.
The stakes couldn't be higher because Hines knows the cost.
My son's death was preventable. The children who walked to the shopping center last year, that was preventable.
And according to BPD data, this year comes to a close with 18 young people killed. Lawmakers will have a chance to act during their General Assembly session, which starts on January 10th. In the newsroom, Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
Well, we have heard from several other families calling for accountability, including the mother and brother of 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez, one of the 2 people killed in July's Brooklyn Day mass shooting. 18-year-old Tristan Brian Jackson faces more than 60 charges in connection to that shooting, but was recently moved from an adult facility to a juvenile facility despite his age and the severity of his alleged crimes.
Even if Tristan Jackson wasn't the person that, inevitably murdered Aaliyah, to me, everyone that shot a gun that night, they aided the death of my sister, you know what I'm saying? So I want them all to be held accountable.
They can't interrogate these children due to the current juvenile crime laws, right? So where does that leave the family, the victims, the survivors of this? We are in limbo until y'all figure it out. Now, where's the swift justice there? I would like to move on. I would like to do something else.
We've also heard from frustrated residents saying Baltimore's juvenile crime levels make them feel unsafe in their own communities. At a Fox 45 News public safety town hall in December, they demanded more accountability from current and prospective city leaders.
A hospitality worker was held up outside of my front window at gunpoint at 3 in the afternoon. Later on that night, 3 teenagers came back looking for the evidence they discarded, running away from police.
I've talked to parents who are afraid to send their kids to school because their classmates are carjacking and carrying guns.
You heard those concerns about carjackings. 2 more teens were arrested over the weekend, in fact. Baltimore police say their Foxtrot unit, that's a helicopter unit, tracked down a 15 and 16-year-old accused of carjacking someone along Edmondson Avenue in South Monroe Street in West Baltimore. Police say a license plate reader alerted officers to the car. Police chased the 2 teens who fled into a home on Frederick Avenue before they were caught by police. Now, according to city police data, juvenile carjackings were up 166% in 2023.
Baltimore police are providing an update to a recent carjacking caught on video, one of several high-profile crimes caught on surveillance in recent months. But others remain unsolved. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live with some new details from police tonight. Keith?
Well, Mary, Baltimore police are making arrests. They say surveillance footage is a big help, but still tonight, caught on camera doesn't always translate to caught by police. As Baltimore City moves into the new year, suspects from the past year still wanted by police, despite their images being caught on camera. Tonight, 3 notable cases with updates, including the armed carjackings that happened on the parking lot at the Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital on West Rogers Avenue in 2 separate incidents, November 29th and 30th. Look here, police releasing this image of a suspect and images of this man related to a deadly shooting on Edmondson Avenue in early December. A man in black clothing seen moments before the shooting, then running away from the scene after the gunfire. And these 2 individuals wanted in connection with one of the city's murders. A man found in his car on a freeway off-ramp in January 2022. Police releasing images of persons of interest just last month. Clean, crisp, clear images. Ted Golden.
It's difficult, but sometimes people do come through.
A former Memphis police officer and retired federal narcotics agent on the importance of surveillance video in homicide investigations. Even when images are not as clear as these, Golden says even hard to see images of a suspect help.
The way they talk, the way they walk, the way they dig in their nose, how they hold their hands, their facial expressions, physical expressions There are a lot of different ways that folk remember people, not just what they look like or what they do, how they act, and mannerisms.
But tonight,
"2024 marks 7 years since Project Baltimore first launched, with a commitment to investigating Maryland public schools and ensuring parents and taxpayers know what's happening inside the classroom with their tax dollars.
And as we enter a new year, Chris Papps shows us some of the stunning issues our Project Baltimore team uncovered in 2023, and the investigations that sparked outrage and the stories that inspired hope.
2023 started off with a bombshell when the MCAP state test scores were released in January.
0%. What are you preparing these kids for?
Project Baltimore analyzed the results and found 23 Baltimore City schools where not a single student who took the state math exam scored proficient.
He can't read. He's in the 4th grade. How is he supposed to be productive if he can't read?
The news was devastating, but not surprising to Nichelle Watkins, who spoke with Project Baltimore in February. Her son attended Johnston Square Elementary, one of the schools on the list of 23.
Look around. I'm in public housing. I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan, but that's what he needs. A tutor.
Watkins' plea inspired members of the community to come forward.
As high as
offering to help tutor her son.
Go to the back of your book.
Sylvan Learning also took note.
What are we doing after we did 7 times 3?
And launched a first-of-its-kind summer learning program in the city at no cost to the students. But it's what happened next that sent shockwaves through the state.
And it's dishonest. It's hiding the ball. It's hiding the truth from parents.
Shortly after we reported on the MCAP results, the Maryland State Department of Education took the state test scores off its website and heavily redacted them. A move that kept parents from seeing exactly how poorly some schools were performing. The state claimed it was using enhanced de-identification to protect student privacy. But when we first tried to speak with State Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry, he walked away.
Mr. Chaudhry, Chris Papps with FOX45. Can we ask you a couple questions about your department removing test scores from the website?
And locked himself behind a door.
Sir, your statement said that you value the media and you want to talk to the media. Sir?
The move sparked outrage, but that would not be the last time the state superintendent would come under fire.
There cannot continue to be scandal after scandal after scandal.
In August, Project Baltimore found Chaudhry had used a secondary email account to conduct state business, and that his state-issued cell phone was set to automatically delete text messages after 30 days.
Oh, he's got, redacted emails and a burner account? I mean, to me, this is fireable.
To me, Annapolis state legislators should be concerned about this.
With many calling for his resignation, our final investigation into the state superintendent proved to be the tipping point.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application and commission of your job?
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it. For my job?
Well, in September, Project Baltimore exposed how Chaudhry was using an encrypted messaging app called Signal to conduct state business, which he initially denied. Some of his messages contained expletives and unprofessional language that seemed to berate employees.
As well as
9 days after that report, Maryland's highest-ranking public education official announced his resignation. That very same month, Project Baltimore reported on another fall from grace. Baltimore City Schools police detective, an 8-time state champion football coach, Lawrence Smith,
Want to say something to your players, coach?
was indicted on federal charges of overtime fraud and tax violations. The indictment alleges, in part, what Project Baltimore first reported 9 months earlier in January, that Smith was logging overtime hours when he appeared to be somewhere else. We found several possible examples, including Facebook Live videos that appear to show Smith driving a boat on the Chesapeake Bay or coaching football, even on vacation, when his overtime forms said he was working.
Say something though to your players?
That court case was not the only one to make headlines in 2023. After Project Baltimore reported on a wrongful termination lawsuit involving the Baltimore County Schools superintendent and other high-ranking officials.
It is my intention to work together with you, the community, to get back to the top of the state and the nation.
Dr. Miriam Rogers took over in July as Baltimore County's 4th superintendent in 6 years. Days before the school board hired her at $310,000 a year, news broke that Rogers was mentioned in a wrongful termination lawsuit by the district's former chief human resources officer. The lawsuit, which includes allegations of nepotism, is still pending.
Hey!
But among the scandals, we also found stories that inspired, like Salem Avenue Elementary, the poorest school in Washington County, Maryland. At Salem, 100% of the students live in poverty, yet this school outperforms nearly half of all the elementary schools in the state. Every year before school starts, teachers from Salem hit the streets for what's known as the Blitz, knocking on their students' doors.
Nice to see you. I'm Mrs. Adams. How are you? We educate all of our kids, no matter who they are, where they're from, what their circumstances are. Our goal is to be a community that values lifting each other up.
The Blitz gives teachers insight into their students' lives. Knowing what they're coping with at home helps teachers teach better.
I heard really great things about it. Aww. It validates what I do every day, what we do every day, because some days are harder than others. So we can come over, okay? We'll be looking for you, okay? All right, bud. See ya. Bye.
With the start of this new year, as always, we want to hear from you, our viewers. Do you have a concern or praise about your child's education? Classroom instruction, school violence, bullying, programs, services, busing, waste, fraud, or abuse? We want to hear from you. Call our hotline, send me an email, go to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Experts are pointing to conflicting messages coming out of Israel. Still ahead, why Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech may not be lining up with his actions.
And we've got a pretty quiet week ahead of us, with the exception of the weekend, of course. All eyes are on the potential for a winter storm and the potential for some snowfall. Right now, I would put us in the category of just preparing for some snow. We're not quite at the level of stocking up for bread and milk just yet. I've got an updated look at that forecast and what we can expect here all weekend long in just a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.
All right, Amy, we can't wait to hear those details. In the meantime, here is the ice rink downtown in Baltimore. A nice night for it, kind of, because it's a little misty out there, so it could be a little slushy, but I'm sure people will be out there as the weather gets colder.
Well, the start of the year means several new laws are in effect across Maryland. Telemarketer calls will be more regulated as a new law prohibits sellers from using recorded messages in phone calls without written consent from the person they're calling. Anne Arundel County's plastic bag ban is now in effect, and anybody who wants a paper bag will need to pay 10 cents. And minimum wage across the state is now $15 an hour, up from $13.25.
In Baltimore City, there's been a push to increase the hourly tipped wage for restaurant workers to reflect the state's minimum wage of $15 an hour that Mayor just mentioned went into effect. Well, right now, the tipped wage sits at $3.63 an hour, supplemented by tips from customers. While some do support the change, the Restaurant Association of Maryland argues it will actually hurt employees in the long run.
They're looking to keep the current tipping system in place. The reason being, they earn significantly more than minimum wage.
There's expected to be a rally surrounding tipped minimum wage in front of City Hall sometime this month. We'll keep you updated on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, Maryland is one of 22 states to increase its minimum wage. Washington, D.C. will have the highest hourly minimum wage in the nation at just over $17 an hour. Workers in Hawaii are seeing the largest increase, raising its minimum wage $2 to $14 an hour.
Now, the biggest challenge facing city police in 2024 as the department tries to continue this year's progress in the homicide count, what the city's police union has to say.
He led the U.S. Marshal Service in Maryland for more than 3 decades. We sit down with Johnny Hughes as he reflects on his long career.
That's the biggest challenge the new commissioner is going to be facing, in my opinion, is how to bounce back, how to retain senior officers, and how to attract high-quality young people.
Baltimore's police union drawing attention to a problem continuing to plague the police department as we enter 2024.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson explores the FOP's message about an officer shortage and what that means for public safety.
As 2023 came to a close, a message to the men and women of the Baltimore Police Department, shared online by union leadership. As we move from one year to the next, I'm pleased to throw out the old, Harrison and Mosby. The FOP3 wrote, I'm even more pleased to bring in the new, Worley, Bates, and Barron. The New Year's Eve message then pointing towards looming contract negotiations. Making our officers the highest paid in the state would be a great start to 2024. Retention and recruitment must be a priority because public safety must be of the utmost importance or nothing else in Baltimore can flourish. BPD's staffing struggles are well documented. The union frequently saying the department is at least 700 officers short. On December 30th, the union claimed BPD is almost 50% short of the officers needed to safely patrol the city.
BPD has struggled with staffing for decades.
In August, an internal department memo obtained by FOX45 News offered thousands of dollars in bonuses, seeking officers to cover shifts and fill staffing gaps in other districts.
The last several months have been tough, to say the least.
And by October, new Police Commissioner Richard Worley vowed to increase department staffing as one of his key goals as he took the helm of BPD.
BPD officers will be increasing their time on foot patrol.
Something at the time, law enforcement expert Jason Johnson said would be Worley's biggest hurdle.
That's the biggest challenge the new commissioner is going to be facing, in my opinion, is how to bounce back, how to retain senior officers, and how to attract high-quality young people.
Last night's message about pay and staffing from Baltimore's Fraternal Order of Police came as Baltimore City closed out its first year below 300 homicides in 9 years. A year also marred by several high-profile mass shootings, from Brooklyn homes to Morgan State. Juvenile-involved crimes often caught on camera, and roughly 11,000 auto thefts. So as the city ushers in January 1st, in comes a clean slate for crime stats, as the numbers all roll back to zero, though Baltimore waits to see what 2024 will bring. Looming questions like whether the city can sustain a second year of homicides below 300, and what Baltimore's quality of life, public safety, and police staffing levels will look like in the next 365 days. In Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 News reached out to city police for a response to the police union's tweet, but so far we haven't heard back.
Police Commissioner Richard Worley participated in a prayer walk in the pouring rain for crime victims last week. He says while the city has made improvements to pull last year's homicide rate below 300, there is still work to be done.
It's a nice accomplishment, but it's still, today it's 258 homicide victims, which is way too many for our city. We still had too many robberies, too many people getting shot. The biggest key I want to accomplish is get a lot of these guns off the street. The proliferation of guns in our city is crazy.
In a report last week, Baltimore police confirmed more than 2,700 guns were recovered from city streets in 2023.
Police are also raising concern about car thefts. City police, or the city, eclipsed 11,000 car thefts in 2023. That's more than triple the level in 2022. Police say young people were responsible for 38% of those thefts, but only 2/3 of those suspects were referred to the Department of Juvenile Services. Of that group, only 5% spent time at a DJS facility. For our full coverage on the youth crime crisis and Fox 45's efforts to hold local and state lawmakers accountable, head to foxbaltimore.com. The U.S. Marshal Service is tasked with protecting judges, capturing fugitives, and other law enforcement responsibilities. In Maryland, Johnny Hughes led the agency for more than 30 years. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost and photojournalist Nathan Aaron sat down with Hughes as he reflects on his career.
58 years in law enforcement. I mean, I've been very blessed.
They say a photo is worth 1,000 words.
That was his inauguration.
And in this house, it's like history is hanging on the walls.
During this inauguration, January 20th, '89, I was sitting right beside Donald Trump.
Johnny Hughes has met with several top political leaders.
I rode on Air Force One one time.
From both sides of the aisle, learning quickly how important relationships are and how small the world can be.
Yeah, he and I go back to 1972 when his first wife died in that terrible car accident up in Wilmington. His daughter got killed, his wife, And Beau Biden and Hunter Biden were in the vehicle too, but they survived.
Hughes sent help to Delaware while he was serving with the state police.
He and I always stayed in touch, and he always sends me a birthday card on my birthday, and I always send him one on his birthday, November 20th. And I talked to him about 6 months ago.
This photo starts Hughes's journey with the U.S. Marshal Service.
I was appointed by G.W. Bush. He gave me my badge in the White House with his father, George Herbert Walker Bush, who I was very good friends with.
After nearly 30 years with the Maryland State Police, Hughes was appointed as U.S. Marshal for the District of Maryland in 2002 and has lasted through several administrations.
I didn't know Obama, but I got called down by Joe Biden, who was vice president at the time. You know, he asked me to stay, and asked me if I would want to stay, and I told him I was humbled, yeah, and I really would like to stay.
The same thing happened with former President Donald Trump, and again recently.
Biden came in, the same thing happened. They asked me to stay again. I always think it's about the heart and the character of the individual, not what political party you are or what church you belong to.
And speaking of church, the signs are sprinkled throughout the home. During his life, Hughes has kept his faith close to his heart.
Galatians 6:22 says we need to share each other's burdens, take the focus off ourselves and put it on other people. It makes you much happier when you can help somebody. My grandfather always told me, he said, always stay kind and humble, grandson. Nobody likes a proud, puffed-up big shot. And I always remember that. By doing that, you're doing the work of God.
Law enforcement runs in the family, too. Hughes' two sons, both joining the ranks of the Maryland State Police in 1993. Hughes has seen a lot in the last 20 or 30 years and remains hopeful the grip violent crime holds on Baltimore will be broken.
The bad element out there, that they pick up a gun, and a lot of times I see that the punishment's not commensurate with a crime. I see it changing for the better under Ivan Bates. Hopefully the mayor and the city council will back him, and the governor, and also our General Assembly members in Annapolis.
But with any journey, it must eventually come to an end. And this year, Hughes was ready for a change.
Stayed the longest serving marshal in the country.
After more than 5 decades working in public safety, Hughes decided it was time to wear the gold badge for the final time. A humble man met with a token of gratitude.
Judges gave me this when I left. They kind of surprised me. I didn't really want a retirement party or anything, but they all called me down to the courtroom down at 1A, and Judge Berdar, the chief judge, had them all standing there in their black robes. And then when I come in, you know, I got a little teared up and choked up. It touched my heart. I didn't expect anything like that. It felt good. I mean, I wasn't trying to set any records or anything like that.
Keeping true to the message from his grandfather, Hughes still plans to try and take the focus off himself.
I feel like I've really been blessed in my 78 years on this earth. I just want to keep working for the community, for the churches, and for everyone, you know, here that needs my help or whatever I can do to contribute.
In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Conflicting messages out of Israel tonight as the Israeli Defense Force pulls thousands of its troops from Gaza. This comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war with Hamas has no end in sight, anticipating several more months of fighting.
We eliminated so far over 8,000 terrorists, and every day of fighting we eliminate many additional terrorists. Step by step, we are depriving Hamas of its capabilities.
On New Year's Eve, skyscrapers in Tel Aviv were lit up with the Israeli flag to show support and call for the release of more than 100 hostages still in Hamas captivity.
Take a look at this. The Islamic extremist group Houthi says that they hijacked an Israeli ship in the Red Sea as retaliation for Israel's attacks in Gaza. The ship is being leased by a Japanese country, but by a business in Japan, but owned by an Israeli businessman. Israeli officials say 25 crew members were on board, but none were Israeli. Police in Philadelphia are investigating a suspected act of vandalism at a mosque over the weekend. Religious leaders shared this photo, saying they found images of the Star of David and one message that read, "Give peace a chance." Advocacy groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations are asking for more security and police protection in the neighborhood where that mosque is located.
Still had concerns over the push for more bike lanes in Baltimore, why some argue they're putting a strain on the city's infrastructure.
And the last time we saw significant snow here in Baltimore was actually back in early January 2 years ago. We picked up close to 7 inches that year. Looks like this weekend we could see some accumulating snow. I've got the latest timing of that system and what it means for your weekend plans and how much we could actually see in our area in just a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10. As we head through the first day of the new year, lots of folks were actually out and about on the ice rink at the Inner Harbor earlier this evening. Of